Colleagues, this what I'm going to do today is based on a presentation which I've also put together, and it was shared in the region. I hope that most of you have seen it. Just so you're aware, I mean, I can't. It's not really possible for me to send it to every person in the region. I know there is an all Asia email list, but I don't like to use it. What I do is I share it with the colleagues who are working here in Bangkok or in the countries which Bangkok covers. And I also share it with the communications focal points in the various countries. And I really rely on them to forward things on to you. I hope that gets to you. As I say, I can't sort of do a blanket email to absolutely everyone in the region. I mean, that's I simply can't use that function. So I hope this stuff gets to you. As I say, this is based on a presentation, and again, after this this session, I'll try and make sure everyone sees this, which I've put together to try to collate some best practices, some good practical examples from around the region, which I hope are helpful to you, and I hope which gives you ideas of things which you can do for your project, your initiative, or in your country office, etc. Colleagues, I just want to make it clear, this collection of best practices, it's not regionally balanced, okay? I've taken, there's so many things I could choose from in the region. I tended just to select things from some countries which I've seen, some things I've been involved in, some things I know very well. So if your country is not included in this presentation, don't take that personally. It just simply means that, I didn't even try to make it regionally balanced. Okay, I didn't even go down that path. So some countries are here, other countries might not be here. That doesn't mean your country doesn't have good stuff, because it's almost certainly not the case. So I just wanted to flag that at the very start. Okay, colleagues, before I share the presentation, let me just make a few words about why we're doing this communicating for change and why I think it's important. It's always been super important that we show the value of our work and what we achieve. We have to show donors give us money. We do all sorts of work. We have to show what we're achieving. We have to show the change we're bringing about. We have to show the people that we're helping. This has always been important. Ever since COVID, it's really become more important. I think we know COVID, lots of our donors, development partners, frankly, they have financial challenges themselves. The money they can provide goes down. We really need to show what we're doing. We can throw in the changes, the recent geopolitical changes with the multilateral system comes under pressure. We've got all the changes of the American funding. This is just something which has been going on for a number of years now, and I think really the changing in the American funding just really brings it much more sharply into focus how vital it is that we show what we're doing and what we're achieving. And that's why I really wanted to make this first one of these sessions focusing on that, the need for us to communicate change and just what ILO is delivering. And so that's really the reason why we're doing this and why it's so important. As I say, I have a presentation. What I'm going to do is just run through some of the slides in this presentation. It's a big presentation. There's loads and loads of examples, but I'm just going to look at some of them. This isn't a masterclass in everything we've done, colleagues. I mean, this is, so I'm just going to try and share my screen. Give me a second. The presentations, the examples we give in this presentation are not the only things that can be done. They're just some examples, and lots of them are very, very basic examples. So I really think these are things which every project, every initiative, every specialist, every country office can think about doing. Okay. There's lots of other things you could also think about doing. Some of them are more complicated. Some of them need more input. Some of them need partners, etc., etc. So this isn't an exhaustive list, okay? This is just a series of examples which I hope you can sort of take some some inspiration from. Okay, I have hopefully shared my screen. Can someone tell me, can you see the first page of the presentation? If someone can just shout out.
No, we
yet,
can't
please.
see it yet.
Not yet. Okay, that's not what I want to hear. Let's try again. Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, yes, thanks a lot. Okay. This is the front page of the presentation, colleagues. You can see it's got like 55 slides. the first 10 present slides of this presentation really just give an overview of things we should be doing. So the first 10 slides are probably the most important. The rest of it is just kind of examples, okay? And I'm just going to dip into this today on the change, communicating change slides. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole presentation. I'm just going to do a part of it. And this is what we're going to start on, success, change, and impact. Excuse me. And this is what really matters. I think we all know this. You don't really need me to tell you this. You all know this. What have we managed to change through our work? How have we affected lives? How have we affected working conditions? How have we built capacity? How have systems changed, etc.? These are the things we really need to try to capture. This slide gives some examples of things we can do. As I say, this isn't rocket science. A lot of these things you'll be well aware of. Maybe your projects or country offices have done these kind of activities already. And just let me run through very quickly, video interviews or stories. We're going to look at some examples of those, which is something I like and something we should all look at. Written stories, I think we all know, still have a role. Perhaps nowadays people read a lot less, but they still have a role in the right place and the right time. Social media is obviously important. Press releases are things we can always still think of, especially if there's something really significant or newsworthy, like a major change or something new, very new. For example, if through our work a new policy has been implemented or something quite significant with news value, then a press release or media engagement is always still of value. Other things here, we have written articles, interviews, where we can talk about things in more detail. I'll show you some examples in a little bit. Other things a bit deeper, like media visits or exhibitions. Again, these are other ideas which you can always do, and which, if it makes sense, if you have something to show to the media. I'll give you an example of that. Actually, while we're on it, the Ship to Shore project fairly recently did a really good visit in Indonesia, to show a load of EU ambassadors in Indonesia its work in one of the provinces there in Indonesia. A load of EU ambassadors went, and also invited a whole load of journalists to go as well. There was something to show off. There's an opportunity to discuss with the donors, and so it really made sense, that kind of activity, to take the media on. So these kind of things can also work if the occasion calls for it. But what's important, colleagues, what should we think of? And these are kind of a common thread that I want to try to, sort of seeds I want to plant into your brain, so to speak. Important, human-centered stories work best. Okay, so if we've changed something, it's much better if one of the beneficiaries explains it and talks about how it's changed their life or how they're doing something differently, than if it's the ILO talking about it. On the slide there, you've got a young man in Bangladesh who's had skills training, for example. He's got a good job, he's got a good income. Having him explain how that's changed his life, how he's benefited, is much more powerful than, say, me saying, oh, ILO has done this, we have done that. Focusing on the beneficiaries is so important. And so really, if you remember anything from this, I'd encourage all of you, and I'll say this all through this hour, keep your eyes and ears open for these kind of stories, which can show, what you have changed, what your work has changed. Okay. The second important thing I want to stress is, as it's written there, we don't always cross the finish line. Moving the needle is often an achievement. I've worked on projects before. I'm sure many of you are on projects. There's not always a clean cut finish to our work. We progress in many areas, and that's something that's often good enough to capture. If we've changed certain things, if people are doing things slightly differently, for example, if it's a labor inspector, now you've been trained, you've worked with them, now they understand more about how to do their job more effectively. That's a success. That's a change. These are the kind of things we can also very much focus on. So, I'm just trying to stress, we don't always have to look for a very clear cut success, whatever that, a new policy or a ratification or these kind of things. Things can be very much smaller. And so again, keep our eyes open for those kind of things. And thirdly on there, short and simple is always good. People's attention span in the world of TikTok and things gets less and less, but there's still a place for more in-depth content. If we really want to explain in a bit more depth about how we've brought about changes, we can still do that. Yes, less people will read it, but if that small number of people who does read it includes some very significant people like big time donors, government officials, constituents, etc., that's great. Okay, we're not always chasing the wide public. I think if it's a smaller audience, that's good as well. So there's some important things to remember. And again, just to reinforce that, if you're going to prioritize anything as you go forward, human-centered perspective, we want look out for people that you have worked with who are doing things differently, who have benefited from change. I guarantee every single one of you would be able to do this and find these kind of examples. Video or visual works best. Again, people don't read as much as they used to. I mean, it's I think we're all aware of that. And thirdly, there, colleagues, the need to start planning this kind of stuff now. I've seen so many times when projects meet the end, or they've got a few months till the end, and suddenly they're scrambling. Oh, we've got to do some stories. We've got to find some examples of what we've done. Don't leave it till the end. The stuff you can keep your eye on now. Let's say if you have a training, you've trained a whole bunch of people in entrepreneurship or something. It's probably people in that training you get your eye on who you think, yeah, these people are really, this person, this man or lady was really smart. This person's probably going to be quite successful. Keep your eyes on these people from early on. Don't leave it till the end. Don't lose touch with them. Try to sort of, identify people now, and then, plan to gather content to show what they've achieved going forward. Much of this is going to need some budget as well. There's certain things communication staff can do. We can provide some support, but we can't do everything. If you have some really good stories far in the field which need a video, you're probably going to have to hire someone to do it. It doesn't have to cost the earth. Okay, you can probably for $2,000-3,000 get some really good outputs. It doesn't we're not talking massive amounts of money. So just bear that in mind. A bit of planning and a bit of budget. Colleagues, oh, thank you. You're off. All right. Thanks a lot. Okay, great. Okay, listen, colleagues, let's look at some examples now. And what I'm going to do is whiz through lots of pages of, you see this is very many slides in this presentation. Okay, I'm going to whiz forward to this bit where let's look at some examples. So, I can try to show you what I mean. Let's start with this one, colleagues. This is it's called an ILO in action video. Okay, this is something headquarters likes because it's something they can package to put on the headquarters social media channels and the headquarters website. But, we also use it in the country level. We use it at the regional level. Basically, this is just a short video. In this case, this young man who's deaf, he has a hearing disability. He's talking about how our training that we've provided, one of our projects provided, has helped him achieve his career goals and basically get a job. So this is the kind of story I think every project should be looking out for and trying to identify. But let's just watch this. Let me just make sure the right screen comes up when I open it. We'll play this and you'll see what I mean. It's only 1 minute long, which is perfect. Bear with me 1 second while I...
สวัสดีครับผมชื่อแทนนะครับธนากรสุดใดเรียนจบชั้นมัธยมศึกษาปีที่6โรงเรียนสวนศึกษาทุ่งมหาเมฆอายุ19ปีครับที่ผ่านมานะครับได้อบรมได้ฝึกปฏิบัติเนี่ยเกิดประสบการณ์มากเลยก่อนหน้านั้นที่ยังไม่ได้อบรมเนี่ยก็จะไม่เป็นแหละได้แต่ดูว่าเขาทำอะไรยังไงแต่พอได้ ฝึกอบรมแล้วเนี่ยนะครับก็สามารถทำได้แล้วก็เลยจะไปต่อยอดในการเปิดร้านเนี่ยแหละครับพวกความชำนาญอะไรต่างๆแต่ก่อนมีความไม่แน่ใจนะครับแต่หลังจากที่ฝึกอบรมไปแล้วเนี่ยเกิดความมั่นใจมากยิ่งขึ้นคนหูหนวกเนี่ยอาจจะแบบว่าการเรียนรู้เนี่ยอาจจะไม่ได้เท่ากันนะครับแต่ก็คือมีความฝันนั่นแหละว่าสามารถที่จะทำตามอะไรเนี่ยได้ครับผมก็มีความสนใจอาชีพตัดผมก็คือเพราะรู้สึกว่าคนหูดีเนี่ยเขาก็สามารถทำได้คนหูหนวกก็น่าจะทำได้ในการที่จะเป็นเจ้าของกิจการร้านตัดผม
Okay, colleagues, bear with me a moment. Okay, so you see that's 1 minute 13. So I'm just checking the time. 1 minute 13 seconds. That young man, he's been trained. He now has more skills. Now he's more confident about finding a job. He hasn't opened his own shop, or he's not making lots of money yet. But you can see how we can focus on that to show how we're sort of pushing towards change, how the needle has moved in this case for this young man. And, this is the kind of content which works really well. This, you see, when I open this this link, it goes to the Twitter. This is uploaded on social media. We put this on social media. We share it out widely. We can also make sure that we email the link to all the people we really want to see it, like the donor and things, so they're all aware of it. But again, this is the kind of thing which I think we should all be looking at, trying to identify these kind of people, these kind of stories. This one, colleagues, was actually produced by Kunjiraporn here in the regional communications unit. So it's super professional. It's very high standard. Personally, when I saw this, I didn't realize she did it. I thought it was a professional company that did it. So normally, but this is the kind of thing you could hire somebody to come to your company and to do these to your event and do these kind of things. Or if you're really sort of confident with doing social media content yourselves, or come and teach you, because they usually know how to do it better than we do. That's something I think we can all look to sort of replicate. Let's look at another example. I won't play this one, but this is another nice example of this guy is a migrant worker from Myanmar working in Thailand, and he was involved with our Triangle project. And basically, he worked with one of the Triangle partners. He learned more about labor rights, and he has been advocating for better labor rights amongst the migrant worker community up in the north of Thailand, the guys doing construction work. So again, this is him talking about his story and really showing what he's learned and what he's doing differently. So again, it's a really good sort of human-centered example. This one is also part of what we call the ILO Voices series, which is something which headquarters puts on its platform at HQ, on the HQ website, which is it's just really sort of high quality, good quality material. They promote it worldwide. I'll speak a little bit more about the voices later on. Let me show you this one, colleagues. I like this because this is one from Pakistan. The person who is talking about change doesn't always have to be a work. Often it's our thought of the beneficiaries. It should be someone in the workforce, someone who's really struggling with life, etc. As we all know, a lot of our work involves strengthening the capacity of our constituents to do their job better. If we can show that, it's great. Okay, and in this case, we've got this chap is he's a deputy director of the Manpower Department of Pakistan, and he's talking about what he's doing differently and what's changed as a result of the project work. Let's just watch this one because I like this as an example. Again, it's very short.
نام از ما محمد ظاهر است. ما بلده محکمه مهنت و افرادی قوت کسا کار منم به حیثیت دیپتی دایرکتر لیبر. د کومک ازی بریج پروژیکت مو کسا بلوچستان بوندد اند فورس لیبر یونیت جور کده. ازی بات کسا باز مو دزی تعاونی بریج پروژیکت مو یا کار دیگه کده کی بلده کپاسیتی بیلدینگ law enforcement agencies कि मो मैं खाई कती कती कार कनी यक जाए द आइसोलेशन मो कार न कनी तनाव मो कार न कनी बस मो इंजी FIA रा माइंस लेबर माइंस इंस्पेक्टरेट अस्ता पुलिस अस्ता قد صوت خو یک جای گرفته مو کار کنی و دزی که سمو نارا کپاسیتی بیلدینگ شم کدی ازی پیشتر قدر مزمون ان شاء الله ای موشا کی مو بلده خاتمه بوندید و فورس لیبر مقصدی و امید مو داره مقصدی لیبر دیپارتمنت و بریج پروژکت همیه که از بلوچستان مو کستا خاتمه بوندید لیبر کنی.
Okay, colleagues. So as you see, that's again nice and short. That was I think just over 1 minute, which is perfect. That's really is the perfect length. You know, that's not a big, expensive, complicated production, is it? This guy from the government, basically some footage of him giving an interview, and then a bit of footage of him in his office and sitting in a meeting. You know, I realize if you want to go out in the field and take footage of bonded labor or somewhere in Pakistan, the brick kilns or wherever, you know, it's going to need a lot more effort to do that. It's great if you can do that, but this is really quite simple, and it really just, you know, involves here this guy talking about what's changed and what's different. So again, I'm just trying to convey to you, look out for our constituents as well. So much of our work revolves around them. So if we can get them to say what's changed, what they're doing differently, it's a really good example. This is another really nice example, colleagues. This is one from Sri Lanka. This is an enterprise development project. This chap in the middle here is a farmer. Now this has been done by a professional crew, and this guy has been helped with enterprise, you know, as part of a project to be a more effective farmer of these sort of palm trees. You know, this kind of thing is really the highest quality, and this is the kind of thing which we can also look at doing, or we should look at doing, if we have the right subject and if it makes sense to do this. You know, this works really well on social media. It works really well with the donors. You know, they really like to see, you know, just what their money has gone towards, and it's, you know, it's just really a top class production. Let's just watch the start of it. This is 2.5 minutes, slightly longer. That's really the kind of maximum length you want. It becomes too long for social media, but I'll just show you a little bit of this one, just give you an idea.
මෙයා නිතරම මලත් එක්ක කතා කරනවා වගේ තමයි එන්නේ. අපේ සීයලා එහෙම කියන්නේ මේ කිතුල් ගහ ඇතෙන් වෙලලා කිසිම වැලක් හිටක්වත් මල අක ගැහුවට අක කැපුවට පස්සේ මෙතනින් ඇදගෙන යන්න එපා. මොකද මෙයා ගොඩක් සංවේදී. මගේ නම නිශාන්ත කුමාර. මම දැන්ට පදිංචිලා ඉන්න ලත්වන්දර හල්දැල්දින මාවතේ. මම දැන්ට ස්වයං රැකියාවක් වශයෙන් කිතුල් කර්මාන්තය කරගෙන යනවා.
Okay, guys, I won't play more of it, just in the interest of time. But you can see there, you know, it's very human centered. It's him telling his story beautifully. It's beautifully shot. I mean, it always helps if you've got a really nice, a nice sort of scenic, you know, place to shoot the video. It looks great. But this is the kind of quality. So again, can you produce this kind of thing for your project or for your work? Are there beneficiaries? Are there people who could speak about what's changed? Think it through. Start thinking. Most countries in this region have a communications officer, not all. If you have ideas, discuss it with your communications officer. If your country doesn't have a communications officer, you can always come to me. Okay, please come to me. But if you in your country has a comms officer, speak to them. Look, we've got these ideas. We want to capture them. How best can we do it? But again, you know, this kind of product is really is almost like a Rolls-Royce sort of level of product. Okay, there's another one here. I won't show this one. This is another one from Pakistan of this is a lady who is, I think she's another government official who's now working, going door to door to explain about the domestic workers law. And again, it's great having it's her voice saying what's changed, what they're doing differently, rather than say our voice saying, oh, we've done this and done that. So it's much more powerful way to convey the message. If you work on skills projects are always a very rich ground, a fertile ground for good stories. Frankly, almost everybody you give skills training to will be able to sort of tell a story of what's changed. I didn't have any skills, now I've got skills, now I've got a good job. It's really good. I mean, if you're on a skills or perhaps an entrepreneurship initiative, there's a lot of material you can come up with, and often there's too many stories. But this is just one from Bangladesh. I won't show this, but there's lots of good examples there. Okay, colleagues, this one I want to speak on. This video is a little bit old. In Bangladesh, ILO worked for ages with the Labour Inspectorate to try to digitize its labour inspection system. They used to go to factories, lots of paper. They would write it on paper. They have files. Instead, through ILO's work, we work to digitize this, and so it's all done on an app. And so they just go, they put the information into the app, it goes into the computer system. It's much easier. There was years of work went into this, and it's probably still going on. How do you capture just what we've done, just what we've achieved through these years and years of work? There's a young man here who is the one of the labour inspectors from the Labour Inspectorate, and in 1 minute he simply explains what's different. And again, it's just him talking to the camera, explaining what they're now doing differently because of this app. Let me just show you this, as it's very short.
এই হচ্ছে আমাদের লিমা অ্যাপস। আগে আমরা কাগজ কলমের মাধ্যমে চেকলিস্ট ইন্সপেকশন করতাম। প্রথমে যে কাজটা করি, আমাদের চেকলিস্ট নিয়ে ফ্লোর থেকে আমাদের প্রয়োজনীয় তথ্যগুলি যা আছে আমরা সেগুলি সংগ্রহ করি। কারখানা ঘুরে ঘুরে বিভিন্ন আমাদের যা বিভিন্ন সেক্টরে লিমা অ্যাপসে আমাদের যে বিষয়গুলি চেকলিস্টে ছিল সেটা লিমা অ্যাপসে আছে, সেম বিষয়গুলি লিমা অ্যাপসে আছে। এখানে প্রত্যেকটা কোশ্চেনের জন্য সমাধান দেওয়া আছে, হ্যাঁ না, সন্তোষজনক নয় কিনা, বা তার জন্য সেটা প্রযোজ্য কিনা, এই বিষয়গুলি এখানে দেওয়া আছে। তার জন্য যে বিষয়টা প্রযোজ্য আমি সেটাকে সিলেক্ট করছি। এটা সিলেক্ট করার সাথে সাথে আমার ডাটা কেন্দ্রীয় সার্ভারে জমা হচ্ছে, এই ডাটাটা চলে যাচ্ছে সরাসরি, ছবি আমরা এখানে আপলোড করতে পারছি, যার ফলে এটা আমাদের ডকুমেন্টস হিসেবে থেকে যাচ্ছে। ইনপুট দেওয়ার সাথে সাথে আমাদের ঊর্ধ্বতন কর্তৃপক্ষ এটা দেখতে পাচ্ছে, তার ফলে তারা আমাদের ভালোভাবে ফিডব্যাক দিতে পারছে। আমাদের কাগজপত্রগুলি ফাইলবন্দি হয়ে থাকতো, আমাদের প্রতিবেদন তৈরি করতে 2-3 ঘন্টা সময় লেগে যেত। এখন আমরা খুব সহজেই স্বল্প সময়ে এই কাজটা করতে পারছি লিমা অ্যাপসের মাধ্যমে।
Okay, as you can see, so that's 1 minute and 6 seconds of this young man actually saying, how this benefits the Labour Inspectorate, how ILO's work has improved the way the Labour Inspectorate operates. We could have done this differently. We could have had all the constituents talking about it. We could have had the country director talking about it. We could have had someone, the high up person in the Labour Inspectorate talking about it. We could have had 5 minutes saying all the things we've done. Frankly, I think this 1 minute of this inspector who actually uses the thing, going out in the field, saying how much it benefits them, is far more powerful. And so I think, I realize sometimes there is the colleagues feel there's a need, we've got to have all the constituents, we've got to have the country director, we've got to have this person, that person. The more people you put in, the longer it becomes, the more institutional it becomes, the less people will ever watch it. And so really, short and sweet is much better. What I'm not saying don't ask the constituents or don't ask the country director. There's no problem with having their voice as well, but don't try to put it all together. Have them separately. If you wanted to have, if it was really important that we had one of the constituents talking about this, have 1 minute of someone from the trade union talking about why this makes a difference. Have another one of 1 minute of the employers, people talking about it, but don't try to squeeze it all into one great big long video, because it just becomes unwatchable often. Okay, colleagues, the Voices platform I mentioned earlier, these are stories which HQ does, and again they just change stories, really told in the first person. Again, these are really strong stories. we've had quite a few from this region, which are great. This one here is from Pakistan. Of this guy's a sewer worker, and he's sort of been involved in OSH and labour rights through an ILO intervention. HQ uses these. HQ will promote them. If we can get voices stories on the HQ platform, that's really the best we can aim for. But what's really important is that if we have these ideas, we have to share them with HQ before we start filming things, okay? So if you have a really good idea, if your comms officer comes to you and has a good idea, we've got to share it with HQ. They've got to give the green light, and then we can do it. What we can't do is kind of film something and then give it to them and can you use this for voices? It doesn't work like that, and it's happened lots of times, and it's a shame, because if we could take a sort of a short pause before we start producing something and share it with HQ so we can get their buy-in into how it can be used, it can have much more, it can go a lot further. The usage will be a lot greater. So just bear in mind, again, the point I'm want you to remember is this: if you have a really strong story, a really good story, share it with your comms officer, share it with me or headquarters before you launch into producing it. Okay. These here are just some examples from the region that we've done. There's a nice one there from India on HIV. There's one from Philippines on gender and construction. There's a Chinese lady who was blind who became the swimming instructor, and there's a nice one from Sri Lanka on disability and entrepreneurship. So it could be all sorts of different themes or topics. Very briefly, colleagues, this is another one from Bangladesh. I just wanted to share. I won't show it just for time, but the project I worked on gave a load of motorcycles to the Labour Inspectorate to help them get to factories easier. Okay, it's a typical kind of project activity. Some of the motorcycles were ones which women could ride easier. They didn't have the tank across the top. They're more like scooters. So we did a short video of this lady who was a Labour inspector just riding around on the motorcycle, saying how it helps her. Okay, it's a fun video. It's short. It's non-institutional. It shows a little bit of a change that we're contributing to. Nobody's going to say that giving motorcycles solves all the problems of the Labour Inspectorate, but it's a contribution for them to do their job better. And so again, if you're doing this kind of thing, think how that can be captured ideally in a non-institutional way. Okay. Very briefly, colleagues, written stories still have a use. We used to do a lot more written stories. We don't do so many now, as people just tend to read a lot less, but if you can do a written story, it still has value. It can often find itself into reports. It can also find itself into other materials, which is always good to have. It's good on the website because it shows you're doing things. If you do written stories, colleagues, I just stress again, make it in the first person. The more it's in the voice of the beneficiary, the better. We really don't want ILO has done this, ILO has done that. It doesn't read well. So if it's the beneficiary explaining what they've done, it's much stronger, much more powerful. This one on the screen was from Sri Lanka, which also had a video embedded in it of the same thing. So it was a good sort of combination of both. And the last example I want to show you is one of lots of the things we do take years, don't they? It's not always. Much of our work goes on, and we grind forward towards trying to improve things. It can be much harder to capture these kind of long-term efforts, but it's still important. This is an example of in Thailand where some of our projects and the country office have worked for like a decade with the Thai government to try to change the law on domestic workers so that domestic workers have the same rights as other workers. Thai government changed it. Fantastic. I think when they did change it, we did a very short interview with the CTA of one of the projects, just saying, oh, this is really good. We're really happy about this. But really, colleagues, this is 10 years of work. What we wanted to do is try and capture that, all that we've done in a presentation. And so I'm sorry, in an article. So I'll just flash this up for you. It's just so what we did was just a short, as a written article in Q&A form with the CTA of the project, who was very much involved. That's not her. That's one of the domestic workers. And just Q&A about what have we done, what has been changed, what role did ILO play? Because we really want all of our work recognized there, and it's not something which easily is captured in like a 1-minute video. So it's got deeper. So the point I'm trying to make is, there is a place still for sort of deeper content. Yes, this is not going to go viral on social media or anything, but we do this, we put it in our newsletter, we send it by email to the people who really want to see it, such as the donors, the constituents. And so, a smaller number of people will see it, but they're the people that we really want to see it. Okay. I think, colleagues, I will stop talking there. And what do we have here? So I can't remember what comes next. Okay, that's something different. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And if there are any questions, let's have a look. If there's anything you want to ask at all. I'm sorry, Mary. I just seen the comments. I didn't about the display of the videos of the presentation. If I show it in display mode, because I have various screens open, I can't see if I've been cut off or not. So apologies for that in advance. I need to sort that out. So please accept my apologies for the display. Colleagues, any questions at all, or maybe just let me sum up if you're thinking of a question. If the only thing you take away from this is this, let me stress: we all need to prioritize capturing what we're achieving. Okay, it's super important. I'm not talking about M&E or reporting. That's not my business. I'm sure you do that anyway. Every initiative, every project has, brings about change, huge change, partial change. Let's all capture this. Keep your eyes and ears open now. Okay, it's so important to do that. Plan ahead. Okay, put aside a little bit of budget. You don't need massive amounts. Really doesn't need a massive. You don't need hundreds of these stories. You need a handful of really strong ones. Okay, plan ahead. Consult with your communications officers. What happens a number of times is that projects do something, and then they present it to us. Oh, we've done this. Can we use it? And it's like, oh, why didn't you speak to us beforehand? Okay, please try to communicate. Please discuss with the comms officers before you launch your TOR, because once the TOR is launched, it's too late. We say, oh, you should have done this, and then the TOR is launched. The contract is signed. It's a headache. Okay, so they're the points. Let me turn to questions now. And sorry, I've raised my own hand. I don't know why I've done that. Muid, my old friend Muid Bai, over to you. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Steve. It's like after. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Because now I have left that communication role and I look into programs and also monitoring. One of the key challenges that I face is like how to tell the stories which are basically changing stories, not change stories. So it's more kind of the trainings that we're providing to government officials to build their capacity and how to sort of really illustrate. I remember the stories we did together about the capacity building of the DIAP, of the inspectorates and stuff like that. It had a wider audience, but the things which are more kind of subtle work in the domestic workers spheres or in the migration sphere, how to sort of really bring the change stories there, because the impacts comes after so many years and you can't really visually show those things. Yeah.
Thanks, Muid. Muid and I worked together in Bangladesh many years ago, so great to see you. Great to see you back with us. It's a really good point. Yeah, big impact changes don't always happen, and they're not always obvious, and they take a long time to come up. Like I say, if you can, we do a lot of trainings, we do a lot of events, a lot of workshops. I don't want to see we held an event type videos or an event. It's not good communications. If you do this, if you work with people to build their capacity, if you have those events, you can always speak to them there about what they've learned, what they're going to do differently. That's a sort of simple video product you can do with your telephone in the event. You hold it up, you ask someone, they speak for a minute. What are you going to do differently? And not a simple piece of content. Going forward, a little bit like possibly the one of the fellow from Pakistan talking about what they're doing differently. Can you capture them or in the field or a beneficiary talking about what they're doing differently. Maybe there's not that, maybe that we're nowhere near the end line, but are they doing things differently? Are they changing things? Are they, is things no longer being done as before? Are we doing something new? If you can capture that, as I say, are we moving the needle? It's important. So I would stress that if you can do that, that would be great. Maybe it's in the field. Maybe you're talking someone like the guy from Pakistan is just in his office. But I think if you can do that, it's great. There's always the possibility to do deeper things like a written piece where we're talking about we're changing this, we're changing that. That can work as well. But I would look for change. The changes don't have to be great. Moving the needle is important. Things on video as well always work better than things written. But let me turn to Nogami. Do you want to go ahead?
Hi, Steve. Thank you
Hi.
for this useful session. I'm learning a lot. You showed me especially how to create videos that really capture what we do and send messages. I really agree with that. I have myself searched a lot of ILO videos on YouTube, for example, but then I see that the number of viewers is always not great. It's modest now, like 30 viewers or hundreds or maybe thousands. And it's a pity that such good videos are not reaching out to the wider audience. But at the same time, I mean, our purpose is not to go on viral on social media. So I agree with that. So I'm approaching this from a project manager perspective, who we have to report to the donor. Let's say we made this fantastic video, which was viewed by 30 people. It doesn't sound so great in terms of reporting the outcome. So is there any way to capture, other than the number of people who view this video, how can we really tell the real impact of such promotional materials? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Thanks for that. Okay, we put stuff on YouTube. No, it won't go viral. You'll get 100 views or something. That's how it will be. What strongly recommend is that we make stuff which is packaged for social media, where we can do a little bit more with it. So, it doesn't want to be too long, basically. Short is better. 1 minute, 2 minutes at the maximum. It works on social media. If, as a project, you spend a whole load of money and time and effort on a really good piece of content, I am happy at the regional office here to pay some money to promote it as well. Okay. If we just put something on social media, it might get 200 views or something as well. It's not very much our organic reach. Just recently in Sri Lanka did a really nice piece of content. We put it on the Sri Lanka Facebook. I paid $50 to promote it. And I think we got something like 90,000 views or something. Now for $50, how much time and effort goes into producing these things for an extra $50? It makes a lot of difference. So if we're looking for bigger numbers, we can certainly do that, which is, and I encourage you to reach out to me. If you have stuff which you spent a whole load of time and effort on, you think is really good, let me know, and I'm happy to pay some money to do that. On the flip side, colleagues, I would really, really, really recommend that all of you, if you're a project specialist, get a list together of the 50 contacts that you really want to see your stuff. Okay, who are the 50 people? There's your donors, there's some other donors, there's the constituents, there's people in HQ. Get their emails together. Whatever you do, which is really good, you want them to see, email it to them. Okay, dear I just wanted to share with you this link of something we've done. It really shows the good work. Any questions, please let me know. Send it to them directly. We have no idea if these people follow us on social media. We have no idea if they subscribe to our newsletters. We have no idea if they go to our website. Send it to them. Get that list of 50 people and get our content and jam it down their throat. Okay, be proactive on it. And so we put it on social media. We promote. We get some big numbers, but let's really target those small number of really, really key people as well. So I hope that helps. But as I say, you spend money on good content, let me know. I will promote it. Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, Ben, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and a really helpful presentation for us. I had a quick comment and a question. I'm thinking in terms of, you raised this issue of, needing to bring in XCalls to do some of the more specialized content videos, etc. I think from our side, it would be really helpful if ARCOM could consider developing some sort of a roster for more specialized content producers. If you have video production companies that are really good, that would be helpful for us to know. I know Chinita used to do a roster for publication editors, and it is very specialized work. Having that sort of roster to draw from, I think would really help us to produce better quality videos in particular. So that's one comment. I also had a question. So I mean, I totally agree with you. It's more important than ever that we communicate the impact that we have at the ILO. I think one challenge we're seeing, particularly with our donors, is that they're wanting to handle comms more in-house. So the EU has said, that in general, they don't want comms officers embedded with projects. And they want to do the comms for their funded projects themselves. I find that very problematic in a number of ways. I mean, I think they don't know the impact that we're having in the way that we do. We've already seen when they've tried to do content for, some of our work. It's actually, I mean, it demands a lot of time from us to help them to, get across what our impact is. But even then, the quality of the storytelling that they're doing is, I don't think it's on the level of what we can do, because we know firsthand what our impact is. So I guess my question is, how can we make the case for how important ILO communications resources are at project level? How do we convince donors that, it is really important for us to have these internal resources? Thanks.
Yeah, a couple of really good points, Ben. I mean, for the XCalls, we do have some names of people that we have used in the past. I mean, obviously it depends which countries you're in and what. Some are companies, some are XCalls, some are individuals. Yeah, we can certainly put that together and try to flesh that out. I mean, it's a good idea. I can reach out to other countries in the region, the Philippines, etc., where let's get some lists of names together, or companies who've done a really good job. There's no harm in having those, in a list, as you say, like the editors. This new XCall system we'll all have to use from July will make things a little bit more complicated, but all that really means is that everything has to be put on a certain system, so it's transparency. If we have this list of people we really like, we can always, anything goes on there, we can also always tell them, look, this is out at the moment, please take a look, bid if you want to. But yeah, point taken. I think we can come up with a list, an up-to-date list. And I also encourage, if you work on projects, you work with people who are really good, let me know as well. Not just video people, but really good graphic designers, really good illustrators, whatever. We're always looking for good names. So just share those, please. Yeah, the thing with the EU is fully understood. I've seen how they do this, and frankly, I don't think it works either. I mean, they're pooling, they're putting out some big contract to some agency to do comms work for the EU, but the agency isn't working with you. They don't have any feet on the ground where you're working. They're just relying on you to give them material. So it doesn't make any sense to me, really, how it can work. I mean, they're going to say, oh, ship to shore, give us a story. That means you've got to go and do the story yourself. I mean, I fully agree. I know the logic of what they're trying to do, but in practical terms, it just doesn't work as far as I'm concerned. I think if we want to show the EU or any other donor the value of having comms work, is that we've got to produce really good stuff ourselves and share it with them. Yeah, if we can, or as Ship to Shore has done itself, things like the visit in Java to the Migrant Resource Center. You get the ambassadors together, you get some media together, show them the benefit of you having boots on the ground or capacity at project level to deliver this kind of stuff. If we're going to hire comms people or have budget and we're not creating any content, if there's no output, you know, they're rightly going to say this isn't worth it. You know, we've got to deliver, we've got to put stuff out. And you know, often the EU, I mean, they'll suddenly, or other donors as well, at some point they'll say, oh, we've got this big exhibition in Brussels or wherever, we need some videos, we need this stuff. You know, they go to you a lot, ship to shore, because you have a lot of good stuff. You know, I would encourage, and I know you have more resources perhaps than other projects, but I would encourage, you know, every project should have material that we can share if the donor comes calling, you know, some videos, maybe a little written article or something. That's how we will really show them the benefit of having communication staff and resources at project level. That's my thoughts. Any other comments, colleagues? We've got a few minutes left before the end. So just let me check the chat. Kaushi in Sri Lanka. Yes, there's good videos. There's a lot of repurpose value. Okay, yeah, that's almost exactly what I was just saying. You know, it's really good content. People want to use it, and there's, you know, donors, partners, etc. And you know, it's not you can keep using this. We sometimes use stories years afterwards. Okay, you know, they don't all go out. Some things go out of date very quickly. If you've got some event, some video speaking about an event, it's out of date the week afterwards. That video, for example, from Sri Lanka about that gentleman who was farming kittle trees. You know, we can reuse these, and we do reuse them a lot. You know, let's say it goes on social media. It doesn't just go on social media once. It should go on social media 10 times. You know, we keep putting it on, and we can keep reusing these. And you know, certain days come up, like the gentleman who was deaf in Thailand doing the hair cutting. Whenever there's World Disability Day, we can roll that out. There's World Sign Language Day, we can roll that out. So you know, stuff does have a lot of value if it's good content. Any last comments, colleagues, from anyone? Any last thoughts? No. Okay, then, colleagues. Well, listen, we can wrap it up there. Again, thanks for joining. I really appreciate you giving the time. I hope this is useful. As I say, you know, this isn't a masterclass. What I'm trying to do is plant the seed that all of us should really focus on this kind of work. Should all really focus on capturing, you know, just what we're achieving. It's vitally important. It always was important, but it's more important than ever now. I think, you know, I think we're probably all aware of you know, Game of Thrones. They say, you know, winter is coming, and winter is well and truly here, I think, in many cases. So it's really important that we get this stuff out, and I would encourage you all to sort of prioritize that. Any questions, colleagues? You know, come to me anytime. As I say, if you have comms officers in your country, go to them as your first port of call. Come to me at any time, and we're more than happy to try and support you as much as we possibly can. But again, thanks for joining. It's much appreciated, and I will let you know when we have the next session in a month's time or so. So thanks again for your participation, and have a good rest of the day. Thanks a lot.